when the state, way back when, formed townships in the state of Illinois, then that's how Eldarado Township was formed. That's how Industry Township was formed. And they divided it, if it was a square plot, they divided it into nine different areas. So that's the reason that Eldarado Township had 9 schools. Industry Township had 9 schools. And that's how that was formed. The middle school, directly in the center of that square, is the one that the state paid the money to. 16 school was in the middle of Eldarado Township. The industry unit, like this building, that was in the middle of the industry district. This particular picture right here is in 1924-25 year, and this lady right back here is my wife's mom in there. And so she was one of 9 kids. The others were all brothers that she had, and those brothers all went to 16 school. This picture down here at the bottom, this is after consolidation of these schools, and this was the beginning of what was called the Eldarado School, not 16 school anymore. This building right here is made up of 3 one-room schools. This one, which is Coloma School, this one, which is Nevada School, and 16 School. Those 3 were put together in the form of an L shape, and that's what Eldarado then school became. So that's just an interesting fact there about Eldarado itself. This pink is Industry Township. This green, that's Eldarado Township. So the ones in the green here, these are the 9 schools in the industry district. And these red ones here, these are the 9 schools that were in Eldarado. At the time of consolidation, this is Bethel Township over here, which is west of Industry. There were 3 schools there that came into our district. This is Littleton Township down below Industry. There's Flatiron, and there's the Grove School that came in. And then later on, this is Oakland Township, south of Eldarado. Pleasant Ridge came in also to our district. So those are the schools that made up our complete district. This school here, up in this corner, they opted not to come in with Industry, and they went to Tappe Grove. And this school, Price School, it burned before consolidation. So of the 24 schools that were going to be in the Industry School District, actually 22 then made it because 1 burned and 1 transferred out. Okay, this left side of this is the old, I guess you would say, beginnings of the school in Industry. This first building here was the first public school built in the township, Industry, and that was built 1853. That lasted into 1893 when this building was used and new in the 1894-95 school year. And this building was used up until consolidation in 1956. And at first, this school up here contained 1 through 9, I believe. I'm not sure about the 9. The first year that this one was used was also 1 through 9. Then in 1910, a high school was built. So this then was 1 through 8. When consolidation occurred in 1949-50, this was grades 1, 2, 3. Here's the high school, and it was built in 1910, and this housed then 9 through 12. This building, at the time that it was built, did not have a gymnasium. So when the high school boys played sports, particularly basketball, they had what was called outdoor courts. So they played basketball outside. If the weather got bad, snow and so forth, and cold, there were 2 theaters in downtown Industry. And one theater, they would take all the chairs out and put up nets on both ends, and they would play basketball then in a theater. And of course, they had a low ceiling, but they did play basketball there. And the gymnasium for this high school was built in 1924. And that opened in the fall of 25. So this is kind of the history of this. This building, I went to school in this building in the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade. And then we consolidated. This middle section is the Industry School District. And there's that same building, just little renovation and so forth over the other one. And this housed 1, 2, and 3 in 1949. It closed in 1956. So that building is quite old. This building, when we consolidated and brought all the country schools in, then we needed more room. And this was the M.I.L building, or the Butler building, they called it. And in 49-50, then this housed grades 4 through 8. This is a picture of the campus complete. That would be with this building and the high school. And in this picture, there's the high school, there's the M.I.L building, and right in this area, that was our hot lunch program. And over here, this was the agriculture and industrial arts. Those 3 buildings came from Camp Ellis, and they moved those in, and they became the hot lunch and ag and industrial arts. This building then stayed in use until, in fact, all of this, until the new school was built down here in this picture. And that was opened in the 56-57 school year. But these are the schools that came from the Industry Township. All of these. I have pictures of all of those, either inside or outside of that. We did have one other school at one time. This was called the Standard School. It was built in 1858. It then closed and became part of Crossroads School, which is this one over here. We also had 3 schools that came from the Bethel Township, which is just west of the Industry Township. And these came in 1949-50. Then Littleton Township also we had 2 schools from there. Union School, which is south of Industry on Highway 67, just south of the county line. And Flatiron School, which is about a half a mile south of Doddsville. Then in 1954, this school came into our district from Oakland Township, and Oakland Township is just south of the Eldarado Township. This side over here is the Eldarado Township. Remember, Industry consolidated in 49-50. Eldarado consolidated in the 47-48 school year. And these are the schools that came in. just a month before school was to open, this school backed out and they went to Table Grove. And before they could start, Price School burned. And so total, 22 out of the 24 schools, one-room schools, made up the entire Industry School District. Early on, Industry had a township high school. When in 1910, that's what it was called, a township high school. Other townships in the area would send their students to the Industry High School, Industry Township High School. They had to pay a tuition. In 1916, they had to pay $40 per student for tuition to go to the Industry Township High School. Littleton Township had 10 students. Littleton had a high school, and they were 9, 10, 11. They did not have a 12th grade at Littleton High School. Back in those years, we had a train. It was called the M.I.L. train. M standing for Macomb, I standing for Industry, L standing for Littleton. And that train made 2 trips per day. And so the seniors from Littleton High School would get on the train at Littleton in the morning, and they would ride to Industry. And the depot was down by where the elevator is, still, I believe. And then they would walk up the hill, go to the school in the afternoon toward evening. Then that train would come back through, and they would get back on the train and go to Littleton. So there are 10 students from Littleton. There are 12 students from Eldarado. Eldarado is just east of Industry. There are 3 students from Oakland Township, which is north of Industry, and also 1 student from New Salem Township, and that would have been east or west of Oakland Township. So that particular year, 1916, $1,040 in tuition from all those students was paid to the Industry Township. My dad was a teacher, and one interesting fact back then, as a freshman in high school, any student could take the teacher's exam in the state of Illinois. And if they passed, they could teach.
Really?
And so my mom took the teacher's exam her freshman year, and she passed it. So once she graduated from high school, she went to Brooklyn High School 3 years, and then went to Augusta for her 4th year, and then the next year she started teaching. And then my dad, he went to Rushville High School, and he took the exam as a junior, and he didn't pass. So then he went to, they held a class of some type, and so during the senior year, and then he took it again, and he passed it then in his senior year. So then the first year out of high school, then he started teaching also. They just got a certificate from the state of Illinois, and I got pictures of that certificate from the state of Illinois stating that they were eligible or whatever to teach. And you know where Littleton is, the first, I believe it'd be the second school south of Littleton, which would have been in what was called Vista Township. That's where my dad started, and there was a school named Hale Ridge. That was his first school that he taught. And he lived about, maybe 3 miles. He'd either walk or ride his horse to school, to teach school. And he had a trap line. In the wintertime, he'd trap fur. And so in the wintertime, he'd ride his horse because if it got too deep in snow, then he'd put snowshoes on and walk to school. And then on the way home, he'd check his trap line to see if he had any furs. I mentioned over there when the state of Illinois divided the state into townships. Each township, if it was square, they could have 9 one-room schools. Those one-room schools were fixed so that each school would be approximately 2 miles apart, so that a student would only have to walk a mile to get to school. Now that didn't always happen, but basically, as you look on that map there, how uniform the pink is over there on the side, those were 2 miles apart, and that's how they located them. If they were not square, like Schuyler County, then they're kind of random. The northern part was kind of square because they had a Union School on the west or east, then a Flatiron, and then they have what was called upper center. Those are the three schools on the north end of Littleton Township. In 1949-50, Adair High School decided with Industry High School to co-op in sports. And at that particular time, it was renamed to Southeastern Community High School. And then in the 56-57 school year, Adair decided to leave and went to Macomb. And then that's when the name went back to Industry School District. These are some letters. These are the sports letters that this group used, and they were called the Indians, Industry Indians. There's, at that time they had 4 sports: football, basketball, baseball, and track. This is the letter that was used for Southeastern Community District. When they then stopped, then this became the letter for the Industry High School. And this is my letter in baseball. And this is a picture of the high school. And this is built in 1910. This is what it looked like until 1924. This part right back here was a small auditorium on the back. Then the gymnasium was built, and you can see how much bigger this is in the back. And this enlarged the auditorium, which was there, and also 3 classrooms at the back across. The gymnasium then was in the basement. And here's a picture of the Butler building, the metal building, in 1949-50. These pipes right here, that's where the cafeteria was going to be put in. That's when they moved in the Camp Ellis buildings in that area. Camp Ellis had those buildings I mentioned a while ago. I think there were something like 900 buildings in Camp Ellis. And when the war was over, then school districts in particular could apply for a building. They had to pay a fee of some type, but a lot of those buildings went to school districts. Plymouth School District, which was west of Industry, we used to play them in basketball. They received a gymnasium. Camp Ellis had 12 gymnasiums on the entire campus that they had. And Plymouth High School then got one of those gymnasiums. Each district that got those, they had to move them themselves. In a gymnasium, they'd have to take part of it apart to get it. But they would put them on the low boys and so forth. And here's a picture like I had over there. There's the campus. Over there I mentioned about the new school that is presently there on 67 southeast of Industry. In 1954, a $500,000 bond was issued to build the new school. And that would for land and also for the building of the building. So on August the 30th of 1954, they voted and passed this plan to build a new building. There were three businesses that bid on the school. There were three construction companies that bid on the building. M.I.L Construction, who was from Bushnell, they happened to be the high bid for this particular building. And it was $287,550 for the building of that building. And the high bid was from LaSalle, Illinois, and it was like 297,000 something. And the third one was from Davenport, Iowa. And I don't know what their bid was. The school district chose the highest bid, which was Bushnell, M.I.L Construction. And the reason for doing that was local construction company, and they would hire local bidders on the extra stuff like plumbing. Plumbing came from Rushville, electrical came from Macomb, and so they would hire local subs to do the extra work. And also they would hire local help, so the people in quite the area there, they could apply for a job and work on the school itself. I also have here a 1956-57 Industry Community Unit District 165. This was all of the personnel that the district had. Superintendent, secretary, treasurer, Board of Education, high school teachers, grade school teachers, had a special teacher, I had bus drivers, and the hot lunch personnel. Most of these people are gone now, of course, but the president of the school board at that particular time, the first year of the president's school there south of Industry now, was my wife's dad. He was the president of the school board. You asked me about some of the people I remember when I was in high school. Well, of course, I would remember most of the teachers. I played sports, a little sports in my junior and senior year. Played baseball all 4 years. And during my junior and senior year, I worked as a custodian in the high school. We had one custodian in the high school and one custodian in the grade school. In the wintertime, I would go down on Saturday mornings, and my job at that time, if it was in the winter, we had a boiler as our furnace that heated the entire building, both high school and grade school, and that furnace had to be cleaned. And the furnace had long tubes in it. It had a spiral metal piece, and of course, I think on Friday night we'd shut the furnace down so it'd cool down. Then I'd go in there on Saturday morning and I'd pull those spirals out, prop them up on the wall, get all those out, turn the hose on them and get all the soot and the dirt and stuff off of those. Then had a brush, long pole, and I would ram that through all those rods, those holes in the furnace, clean it all out, hose it out, put those all back in. And that was roughly a 3-hour job every Saturday morning in the wintertime. When I was a senior, the custodian at the high school, his name was Sam Farr, he had a hernia operation, and he was laid up roughly 6 weeks, 7 weeks. I then became the main custodian in the high school, and I would have to clean the rooms after school, blackboards, bathrooms, and so on. If we had a basketball game on a Tuesday night, I would start with the stage. If the band played, I'd clear off the stage. Then I'd start and clean the seats and so forth. So it was late nights on Tuesday nights. If we played on Friday nights, then I'd wait till Saturday morning and go down. One memory I had when I was custodian, one Saturday morning, I went down to take care of the things I needed to do. I came in on the north end by the cafeteria, had a key, so I would go to the left and go over. Then there was a long hallway between the grade school and the main office in high school. And at that time, there was only one light switch, and that was down by the main office, right close to the water fountain. So it was dark. I knew my way. I could put my hand up on the wall, feel my way down through there. When I got down, almost there, I stepped on something. I couldn't figure out what it was. And there were several items on the floor. So I went on down to the lights, and I turned the lights on and looked back. Well, just by the first room used to be a pencil and paper machine. And the pencil and the paper were laying all over the floor. So I knew someone had broken into that pencil machine. And you talk about people's hair standing up. I think that was one time that it did on the back of my neck. So I looked around, of course, I reached into my pocket and got the key out. So I was going to the main office, and I'm going to call the superintendent. Name was Don Long. So I took my key out, and I reached up, and I touched the lock, ready to put it in the lock, and the lock fell out on the floor. So I knew somebody had been in the office. So I had my back to the windows, and I scooted along and got over to where the path went into the secretary's area. Got to the phone. I called Mr. Long, told him someone had broken in the school, and he said, look under the counter and see if the money box is still there. So I pulled open the door and the counter. I said, no, it's gone. And then he said, check and see if anybody broke into the extra room where they had the safe in the back of the room. So I went back there and put the key in, and it was okay. So he came, they called the sheriff's department, and they followed tracks, mud tracks. We'd had a basketball game the night before, so we followed tracks back to the music room and went into there. And in the back of the music room, where the office was, the window was open. And so whoever, or how many, one or two, whatever, they left that window open, we think, the night before, and then they came in there and got whatever they needed out of the pencil machine and the money box. I played sports. I wasn't any star, but I played a little sports. All of the athletes that were in high school, we all had 6th hour free. So we would have library. And the library was the last room on the south end of the building. And so every Wednesday, I believe it was, we had a sporting goods company from Quincy. Was called Tappe Sporting Goods. And there were two brothers that ran the sporting goods store, and they were professional baseball players. And one of them, which is Elvin Tappe, he made it to the major leagues, and he was a catcher for the Chicago Cubs. And years later, the Cubs experimented with what they called a rotating manager. All the coaches on the staff would take over as managers for a certain period of time, and they would manage the team. Al Tappe became one of those rotating managers. Then his brother was a pitcher, and he did not make it. He was in the Cub organization, but he did not make it to the major leagues. Major events that were held at the Industry School District. Each year, there was what would be called a county basketball tournament. And all the county schools in McDonough County, they would rotate. So Industry would get its opportunity to host the county basketball tournament whenever their time came up. Also, there was track meets there, county track meets. I remember at the time, Western Illinois Teachers College, it was called first. My first 2 years at Western, I was under that system. And then my junior and senior year at Western, it then became Western Illinois University. Western Illinois University Teachers College, whichever you want to use, they had a lab school. And so that was kindergarten through high school. Western, then high school, used to play Industry High School. And one year I remember Western was to play at Industry, and they came down and burnt a big W in the middle of the football field for whatever reason. When I was a junior and senior, worked at the school a lot. We used to get, the school district got lots of state or government food. And we'd get butter, meat products and so forth. At Christmas, at Thanksgiving and Christmas time, we'd get turkeys for the hot lunch program. And so, since I did some work there, I would take, like before Thanksgiving, I would take 3 or 4 turkeys. I don't recall exactly how many, because they would feed all of the high school and all the grade school. And I'd take those turkeys and take them up to Macomb, and just 1 block west of the square, there was a creamy crust bakery, and they would bake the turkeys for us. And then on the early morning of Thanksgiving, I'd take the station wagon, I'd go up and get those turkeys, bring them back to the helpers in the lunchroom, and they'd fix that for the Thanksgiving dinner. And then do that same thing at Christmas when we'd have that same type of dinner.